kill you all.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the TechRaptor podcast. Very edgy start to all of this. I'm Robert Scarpanito, your features editor.
Ed Rutten, editor-in-chief.
Rutledge Doggett, site founder.
Andrew Stretch, dialogue editor.
Dialogue editor. That's why he will kill us all. We are going to talk about Resident Evil 4 this week, the big remake. It's a brand new game of an old game that was pretty big deal back in the day. So I guess off the top, there will probably be spoilers in this. So if you care about that at all, you know, maybe save this episode in your back pocket until you finish Resident Evil 4 and then pull it back up and take a gander, because we're going to have a lot of interesting thoughts, I think, about this game. Because from what I remember, I think I'm the only one on this pod who has played the original, and the other three are coming in like this is their first exposure to Bingo and Leon S. Kennedy.
Yeah.
And all of his wonderful himboisms. So I guess without further ado, we can start off. I am very curious I guess we can start with Brett. I want to know what you think about Resident Evil 4.
I enjoyed it.
I heard a question mark at the end of that there.
Stretch and I were talking about this a little bit before the pod, but like, if we hadn't been in a deadline crunch to finish it for the podcast, I don't know if I would have gone all the way through it. Like, it was an enjoyable game, but it just, I don't know. I don't think it clicked for me as much as it's clicked for a lot of other people.
Interesting.
It has a lot of interesting elements to it that definitely different than a lot of other games. I don't know. I'm curious what everybody else thinks.
Yeah. So Stretch, are you in a similar boat?
Yeah, I think that I'm really getting the like Citizen Kane-ness of it, or like, you know how people will say like, wow, this movie's really good, you should go and watch the original, and then you watch the original and it's like, well, it's the same but worse. I think just not having the nostalgia for 4, I just don't think that 4 really grabbed me. I think that there's a lot that works well, but there's a whole heap that just did not click.
Fair. And what about you, Auden?
Couldn't be more wrong, you fuckers. Resident Evil 4 is great. I get what you're saying about the Citizen Kane 4. Like, it's like there's some
Citizen Kane 4.
Citizen Kane 4, yes, Citizen Kane 4-ness of it. You guys didn't know that it's a franchise. You've not seen Citizen Kane 2, 3, and 4?
No, I stopped after they introduced Iron Man.
Wait till you get to 6, man. It's wild. Anyway, I get what you mean about the Citizen Kane-ness of it. Because there's some parts of it that you're like, boy, this is definitely a game that's from like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
There's some video gamey ass fucking video game moments.
That's what's like the best part of it, is it's just like go for broke on the fucking ridiculous video gaminess of it. And that's what's great.
And I think part of the Citizen Kane-ness that you might be feeling too is, you know, the original Resident Evil 4 is kind of, I mean, it's an important game. It's like a landmark game in terms of like game design, and like a lot of future third-person shooter games after that owe a lot to what Resident Evil 4 did. But then because all of the future ones did what Resident Evil did, now it's like when you go back to the original, it's like, I've played this before, but I haven't. You know what I mean? Because it's like you've already kind of experienced a lot of the mechanics and the ideas that have kind of evolved since then. So it's not as, I guess, legendary feeling in a way.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like I will sit down and play through the entirety of the first Spyro the Dragon from start to finish in one block, 100% complete it. And I know that I do that because I have the nostalgia. But for this game, I woke up this morning and was like, oh, I'll finish it off. I probably don't have too much longer left. Boy, was I an idiot. When I started playing this morning, I was at the beginning of chapter 10.
Oh, buddy. Oh, man.
Yeah, you had a little bit to go.
Oh, man.
I rolled credits about 30 minutes before we were recording.
You aren't even done with the castle yet, bud. Like,
yeah.
No, I had like, I was at the 3 heads, the 3 head goat
Yeah, a
puzzle
while.
chimera thing.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
You
long
had-
time ago.
my lord.
yeah, that's the you had to rush through the Salazar clock statue, clock tower
Yeah, the
section
weird
too.
flamethrower mech.
Uh-huh. So, I just while we're talking about that, do you guys know what that section was in the original game?
No.
Oh, it's amazingly video gamey. The statue comes to life and tries to stomp on you, so it's a chase sequence. So it
Sweet.
chases you while you
Nice.
mash a button to like run fast to get away from it.
Hell
That-
yeah.
That was what that segment was.
Why'd they change it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there was another segment early in the original game where there was a boulder that's doing the exact same thing, just with gravity instead of feet, and you have to mash a button to run away from the boulder. So they probably just used similar mechanics for that. And I guess Capcom decided in the year of our Lord 2023 that wasn't as interesting.
I guess they did.
It's fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna hard disagree that you need the nostalgia factor to really enjoy this, and that
really?
it's got a
Yeah,
lot of good stuff going for it.
And I'm not saying it's a terrible game.
Yeah.
No,
It-
yeah, but I
it's-
think it stands its ground as one of those greats without the nostalgia factor. Right now,
Mm.
I have no nostalgia. I've never played a single Resident Evil game. I've maybe seen like the first movie when it came
You know,
out.
Playing through
I know
4, I was
nothing.
definitely thinking that some people owe Resident Evil 6 an apology. I would put
Wow.
this around there in terms of the goofiness mixed with the horror and the whiplash that you get between sequences.
So I guess part of that to me comes in where I think 4 is the most action. It's where it's turned into action. It's like action
Yeah.
with horror as opposed to a horror game like 1, 2, and
Yeah.
3, right? So they were kind of straddling the line between the campiness, but then like Leon is a fucking action hero, badass, like roundhouse kick,
Yeah.
German suplexes these dudes like they're nothing, right? So it's really silly when also it's scary, like the juxtaposition and the tone is kind of weird. And I think they amp up the horror in this remake, but also
Okay.
retain the cheesiness. So maybe that's where the weirdness comes from for you.
It was way less scary than I expected to, as someone who's an absolute fucking coward when it comes to horror.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, how much am I gonna hate this? And ultimately it was actiony with like some spooky mixed in for
Mhm.
me, and that was about it. It was more than scary, kind of gross because fuck the weird tentacle things. Just
Plagas.
Hey,
big old nope
that's
for me.
a whole genre of porn, man.
Oh, I'm aware.
Very aware.
Yep.
Mhm.
The internet has scarred me.
So for me, it was kind of like it was scary when we were like in the village and doing all of the MacGuffin quests before getting into the chapel. And then after that, it like really went hard on action. There was the brief time that you got dropped into like the watery area, and they had the bugs coming out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was that the same in the original?
I think they were invisible. There wasn't water. They were like just invisible enemies, and then the
Okay.
green glowy eyes would show up. So I mean, similar effect. Just yeah,
Just
A little
slightly
bit
different.
different.
Okay.
yeah.
I'll agree though. The village was definitely had a lot more like horror to it, in terms of kind of vibe compared to the castle and the island.
So
Kind of thinking back now.
what about the first time you guys encounter the Garrador, the Wolverine claws, dude? Did that not scare you or anything? In the
Like the
castle?
big
He, like,
dudes.
rips the
Yeah, the
chain off
ones
the chains and shit.
The ones that react to sound.
Yeah, they're
Mhm.
blind, but they can hear you.
Those dudes were easy.
Those were cool. But yeah, you sneak around behind him, shoot him with a shotgun, move away.
hmm
It was fun. I think the enemy that I enjoyed fighting the most were the weird naked fleshy ones. What are they called?
Fuck those
Regenerators?
dudes.
Oh,
The ones that just
yeah.
kept regenerating until you like blew out their two
Mhm.
hearts or whatever.
Like I mean, those are
parasites.
probably the I think freakiest looking.
Mhm.
Like they move in a weird way. When you shoot their legs, they like worm at you, which is kind of creepy.
Didn't like that.
Pounce. That was a really cool enemy, and I really liked the way that it used like a weapon and an in-game mechanic to be able to kill him. I think that was really fun.
Did you
Yeah.
kill the one down in the?
I killed
It
them
was like
all.
in the lab with the where you could turn on the ice to stun it.
Oh no, I
trying-
didn't kill
yeah.
that guy. I
Oh,
just
you-
kept running circles.
I killed him. I was like, "Fuck this guy specifically."
Yeah, he is kind of rough.
Yeah.
Like because I've replayed it a few times now. I've kind of gotten to the point where I freeze him and then I just buy the rocket launcher and I'm just like, I don't want to deal with this shit, so I just use it on him. Because the
Nice.
rocket launcher is a one-hit kill on anything, even bosses.
Oh, I know that.
Oh,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I bought it.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, it's
so
really
that's how
expensive
you
for a
cheese
reason.
it.
Yeah, it's a cheese strat or it's like a speedrun strat. Like I'm sure in the speedrunning community, there's like they're trying to like calculate what's the most efficient boss to use the RPG on. What saves you the most time, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I
I
want
mean,
to
there were
dive
definitely some enemies that were more challenging. I felt like the bosses were very easy to figure out too, in terms of like the boss design in terms of like what you should be doing was good because there's no context clues other than just figuring it out. And I felt like that game design was very good in terms of like, okay, if I shoot him enough times, you're pissed. I stab him in the face, a little thing pops out his back, and I shoot that.
Yeah, and it does have that kind of early mid 2000s of like, if there's a yellow glowing eyeball,
Yeah.
maybe that's something you should
Hit the weak point to do maximum damage.
Yeah. I want to dive a bit more into this little debate we're having here of, so Auden, you didn't feel the need for nostalgia to like it, but
No.
Stretch and to an extent Rut, you both kind of feel like without the nostalgia, it doesn't hit as well. So I'm curious.
I don't think that the nostalgia was needed per se. I just, hearing so much about the legendary game that is Resident Evil 4, I just don't think that I got that out of it.
So-
Like, it was a good game.
Yeah.
I would probably give it like a 7.5. But
Blaspheme. Just blasphemy.
You're
Saying this to a
7.58
man
for
that's
me.
played it 3 times over there in the last couple weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, Stretch beat it 30 minutes before the podcast, and Scrappy's beaten it 3 times since it came out.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty wide gap here.
to be fair, the subsequent times you can rush through it. Like I think my first time was 20 hours, second one was 12, and the third one was like 7 hours because you know.
Just with like the new game plus mechanic.
Yeah, well, and then for the third time, that's when they dropped. Like, I was around the time they dropped the Mercenaries update, which is like that arcade mode they have. And if you do that, you get the hand cannon, which is like the most powerful magnum in the game. And then if you upgrade it, you get infinite ammo. So you basically get just a fuck everything gun,
Yeah.
and that makes the
Goes pretty
replays
quick.
even faster. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
It's a
The only
game
things they
changer.
can't kill are like the regenerators, which I think is kind of neat. But so Auden, you didn't have the nostalgia factor. You've never played a Resident Evil. In fact, maybe
Never.
your exposure to Resident Evil up until now has probably been not as favorable, I would argue, if it's mostly the movies.
Yeah, I just didn't give a shit
And
about
the
it.
legendary TV show.
And the movies are garbage. Nobody
Yeah.
can convince me.
So what was it about this being your first real exposure to playing a Resident Evil video game that that kind of caught you?
It's a very, I guess it's my, because I don't play a lot of horror games, so I'm sure I'm getting in on some of the horror tropes and like classic game design stuff that works really well. Like I thought maybe it's not a scary game, but I think it's a tense game where you're on the edge. You're like, oh fuck, like you have to be careful. Like you can't be shooting dudes willy nilly. Like you got to be careful with what you got because you don't have a lot of resources. And so and when you get guys like that guy, you have to freeze down in the lab place or whatever. Like it's an oh shit moment at first. I don't know what the fuck to do. I gotta fucking run and get away from this dude.
Yeah.
Kind of feeling. But it's a lot of very like deliberate choices in the moment. It was surprised. I didn't know anything really about Resident Evil 4. I was surprised at how much action there was, like how much killing, like right away. That was throwing me off. I kept dying in that early spot because I'm like, dude, there's no way they're expecting me to kill like 30 fucking dudes right now.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
village
they
segment.
are. Yeah,
Mhm.
right at the beginning, like, oh yes, they are. Like that's you got to just keep going.
Yeah.
So the
Was
chainsaw
not-
dude
I
shows
was
up.
I was trying to be all tactical and moving around. It's like, no, dude, you just need to fucking go for it.
Mhm.
Dude, I tried to
yeah.
stealth that section like 15 times and then realized that was not the point.
Yep,
It is not a
so
stealth
did I.
game.
Yeah.
I mean, the new stealth mechanics are nice in some spaces, but this is definitely not Metal Gear Solid, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's that kind of stuff. It's very the moment to moment stuff works really well to me, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
and the vibe, I thought the writing's fun. I mean,
yeah,
Leon's a fucking dope.
he's a dopey himbo action hero.
Like every time it's like, Leon, you say the lamest shit all the time. Like at every moment, you fucking suck. Like, but that's why we love you.
It has a kind of weird charm to it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad they kept, like, I'm so fucking happy that in this game, the title drop is right after he says bingo. Because they just know that,
bingo.
Like, yeah, where's everybody going? Bingo? Like, it just sets the tone perfectly for how stupid this game is going to be. Yeah. I think that village segment, I kind of want to hone in on that because that's a kind of very iconic moment from the original game. You know, as you guys know, going through it, right? It's very hectic, it's very crazy, and it's a very interesting way to start what you think is going to be a horror game. And they've really amped it up from the original, and I think they do a lot of fun tricks where, because you know, Resident Evil is commonly games like a lot of people replay these games a lot because there's reasons to do that, and Resident Evil 4 being one of the best ones, there are many people out there who've replayed it often, and they've kind of gotten the village segment down to a science. They know what to do, they know where the shotgun is, they know what loops to run, and all of that stuff. And so for this remake, I think what's nice is they added a lot of fun little details that kind of amp up the tension from a story perspective. Like when you run into that building with the shotgun, there's that little cutscene that plays where Leon like bolts the door down, right, or like locks it down. Which is kind of nice. It adds like that tension, right? And there is always this hack, well, not hack, like a little fun trick people would do where there's like a tower in the back of the village where if you climb it, you can just wait out the timer because it's either like kill a certain number of villagers or wait 4 minutes and then it ends. And people would often climb that tower, wait there for 4 minutes because every zombie has to climb up the tower to get to you. So you just shoot them once, they fall down the ladder. So if you just do that, you're fine. But in the remake, if you climb up it, there's a green herb and you get that. And the second you grab it, the tower collapses, which is very fun. I love that the game is like, no, you're going to play our fucking game. You're going to like it. Right? So I like the little touches that the remake adds to it. And I think that's kind of a common theme throughout this game where it's like, for people who have played the original, there's just those little touches where things move in places you don't expect. Or, like the tower collapses when you want to use it as your safe zone, right?
I know as well with that opening sequence in the village, if in subsequent plays, if you have something like a rifle, you can actually shoot the bell and it will end that sequence immediately. You don't even need to do anything there. Just boom, bingo, that's it. I think that's a fun way to give the tip of the hat and the nod homage to the first release of the game, but then also still give people a way to shortcut through that sequence in subsequent playthroughs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a fun idea.
Agreed. So when you all first ran into it, Otten, you were pretty overwhelmed, right? At first, and right, you tried to stealth through it. Stretch, what was your kind of experience with the first time in that village segment?
So the first time in the village was during the demo when I played that. I as anyone else sane would do, I came in and I hugged the left wall and I killed the old lady, and then I baited out that other old lady, and then I realized, fuck, I can't do anything more here. I tried to get into a couple houses, and then
you could sneak across the way.
It took me until I was finished with the area. I kind of kept baiting and kiting people around like the pathway that the chainsaw dude comes from, and that place like right in front of the chapel. I didn't even realize that there was a whole like other like that there was a behind area to the right half of the village until way later when I'd like already everyone had gone inside and I went around doing some hunting collecting.
Yeah. Yeah, I am really happy with how that segment turned out. I think in this remake, it kind of fits and sets that the tone really well for throughout the game. I want to ask you guys too about the merchant. How do you feel about him?
Strange.
I liked that mechanic a lot. Like
You like the mechanic?
just the general like inventory and gun upgrade, the ability to sell upgraded guns, get everything back, and put it all into another gun.
Yeah,
like I thought that was a good gameplay loop to where you could progressively upgrade your arsenal. And the kind of like the trade-in stuff was interesting too, like prioritizing, okay, I want to get this first, and then going through that. And I didn't realize I played this game a couple months ago called Save Room Organization Puzzle, where you're just organizing your inventory, and it's basically Resident Evil 4. Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
I never did any organizing. I just did the auto organize.
Clicking the left stick. Yep.
Who gives a fuck? I don't care what
I didn't
it
even know
is.
there was an auto organize. I just let it be chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, I use that completely. Like the only time I would ever get into the organizing is like because the auto organize does it where it's kind of like left to right, and there are times when it's like you have that last row where you can move items to it to get another thing. That's the only time I would ever mess with the organizing.
They would auto organize to make room for something if you didn't have it too. Like I never fucked with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really nice quality of life option because like there's some nostalgia to like playing some weird attaché Tetris sort of thing, but you know, at the end of the day, if you want to save a little bit of time, you just hit that left stick and you're good. You know,
I like the merchant guy. I thought it's just cool. I mean, I don't know, he's got an interesting vibe to him. I thought the voice acting was great for him.
Yeah.
I also love how nobody fucking questions why he's there. Not even a moment of like, well, who the fuck is this guy? Doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, I love that there's so much more that gets expanded in like the notes, and there's like extra like cutscenes or moments or writing for other characters. Like Krauser has an extended story, Luis gets a little bit more fleshed out, Salazar and his whole family gets a little bit of fleshed out, but the merchant, they're like, nope, he's still fuck it, he's just an enigma.
Just a guy.
Just a guy.
Just a dude that shows up everywhere.
You see the purple flame, you're like, oh god, for relief for a second. Yeah.
You get to go and play at his pirate shotgun gallery or whatever.
It's very fun. There's a random shooting pirates.
Yeah, because there was a shooting gallery in the original too, but this one they were just like going whole hog in it, like making it weird and silly, and then like the rewards of those attaché like like keychain
things, little charms.
Yeah, that do like little bonuses. That's kind of nice. Yeah.
I didn't change my briefcase the entire game. I was just like, give me a shit ton of pistol ammo. I'm good.
Yeah, I'd say I used the pistol like 95% of the time, probably.
Him in the face, roundhouse kick, done.
Yep, exactly. Occasionally the shotgun for like the shield enemies if they get too close, just to like blow off the shield.
The bugs really suck against the TMP, I found.
Yeah,
you could like score a couple hits, it would drop down, and then you'd just go up and stab him in the face. Save some of that handgun ammo. I ended up with 4 guns in my case by the end of the game, which I think is not the traditional experience.
Me too. I had
untraditional
pistol, shotgun, the like semi-auto sniper rifle thing, and then the SMG that you find in the lab where you find the first regenerator guy.
LE5,
that thing slaps.
Yeah, I used to use the pistol, the rifle, and the shotgun. That's all I had on me. I wasn't fucking around with those magnum things. Like, nah, dude, I'll just keep the regular fucking thing.
I didn't use the magnum at all.
I don't know. I like the magnum just because it kind of cheeses some boss strats, because you can just pump because you know, like most of the bosses, right, you get them in a down state and then their weak point shows up. You just pump some magnum into that and you're like it's the end, you know. Mhm.
Yeah.
Had I known there was an infinite ammo,
Magnum.
would have changed the game. Yeah.
Well, so
you
if
get that like after a run through though, right? It's not.
So you have to, before Mercenaries was added to the game, you had to play the game on a brand new fresh save file on the hardest difficulty and finish it to get the Magnum, which is tricky. Because my second playthrough, I did it on the hardest difficulty, but with all the stuff, and that was still really hard. But with Mercenaries, you just need to get an S rank on 3 game modes, on 3 maps to get it, which like you're just killing a bunch of zombies with guns. That's really it. So like it's just a horde mode, you know, play it a few times to practice and you're good. It's way faster. Yeah. We're talking about all of these weapons, but I'm curious what you guys think about the knife, because the knife also got a bit of a gameplay change from the original here. And did you guys use it that much or find it useful? Or
Once I realized I could like upgrade the durability of the combat knife, that was like every single time that's what we're going for.
I don't think I ever used it as a damage dealing thing. Like I never like was swiping with it. It was a parry if I need it, finish a dude off if I need it, stealth kill him if I need it, or whatever. But I wasn't going around like
swiping. Yeah. Same with
It's
you,
kind of a
Stretch?
waste of it, honestly.
Yeah, I never used it for parrying. I definitely used it for damaging. If I like got people down and would like run towards them, but I somehow didn't stun them and didn't stun them enough to melee, or didn't stun them enough to just be able to stab them, I would definitely come in and just do like a few swipes. It kind of the knives felt so important, especially early game, that when it was like, oh, you know, do you want this bolt caster? But to make more bolts, you need to sacrifice a knife. It's like, no, fuck off, no way.
Yeah. Or at least
Knives
until you
are
start.
way more valuable.
Yeah.
Boltcaster seemed like a cool idea, but I fucking hated it. It is such an unwieldy thing to shoot.
Yeah.
Arc was really rough, and it kind of shifts left or right.
It wasn't a very easy thing to shoot, and it wasn't really good feedback to like understand where things were going.
But it is a very good mine thrower. It is a very good for remote mines. Yeah.
I still sold that shit after I got it.
Same.
I mean, I kept it just for the mines, just because that is kind of like when you're out of grenades, you know, it's basically just a clunkier way to throw a grenade, basically.
Yeah. I didn't
it's
use
just
that many
helpful.
grenades either. I was very much like fucking handgun the whole time, pistol.
I didn't use a single flash grenade.
Neither I sold them all.
Oh, you guys know that those kill the plagas like immediately.
They're easy enough to kill.
Yeah, I remember reading it, and I was like, still don't give a shit.
Same exact reaction. I was like, I don't care enough.
I use them for the plagas all the fucking time. Like I would specifically get into rooms, headshot, and if there was like a plagas that appeared, I would just leave it up, kite it away, or you know, move around it, and then I would, you know, end up at the end of an encounter with like 4 of them wiggling around, and just be like, okay, we're done with this. Boom, gone.
Yeah, no, you shoot them 3 or 4 times in the head, boom, they're done.
Yeah, but that's 3 or 4 times per enemy when I can just use a flash grenade and save like 16 bullets.
Well, and
I don't need to save bullets because I hit the mark every time.
Well, then it also like stuns the normal enemies. You can just stab them right there. You know, it's like pretty useful overall.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I was just like, I don't know. I'm not fucking with it. I don't know why.
Right. Okay, I kind of want to shift over to the story. I want to talk about this, probably
There's a story,
arguably the weakest part of the game.
Oh.
The story,
Easily the weakest part.
Which I know there are probably some really hardcore deep lore, like they read the Resident Evil Silmarillion people out there who love all the little because there are some changes to like the details in the story for this. But with this being your first exposure to Resident Evil 4's general story, I'm getting the sense that everyone here is like meh about it.
Who the fuck was everyone? What is going on? It felt so weird and disjointed the first time you like pick up any piece of paper that mentions Ramon is after you've killed him. That first dude that became like the weird spider tentacle dude on the ceiling, I didn't
Mendez.
even know his name until I read the trophy pop for it. Like, what is happening?
And they call it the
Yeah.
Big Cheese, I think was the trophy for it, right? Because
Yeah.
Luis calls him the Big
Mhm.
Cheese.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it's just like I don't know who you are. When they kept talking about like, oh, you know, Sadler this, Sadler that, I was like, oh, this must be the one that looks like the Queen of England. And it's like, oh no, that's Ramon. Sadler is
Queen.
someone completely different. What the fuck's going? Who's this other
Mm.
person?
Yeah, I do love that
You
Salazar.
didn't meet Sadler till today.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Well, no, I think you see him because he's always in those weird. Because like I think,
Oh, you see it like in shadow.
yeah, because
you
there's a
get,
lot
like,
of the
those weird
chapters that,
flashes.
like after Leon gets injected with the Plagas, you get like the beginning of the chapters like sacrificial lamb and all of that shit, where
Yeah.
like you see him and it's so fucking cheesy.
So good though.
Mhm.
I just like I don't know who anyone is. Nothing like from start to finish. It's just save Ashley. And there's
Yeah.
like some like mechanical MacGuffins along the way that you pick up, and
Mhm.
lots of detours that you need to take.
They don't keep a very good eye on her.
Yeah, it's
Or
literally
that's how important she is.
save Ashley, lose Ashley, save Ashley, lose Ashley, just over and over
I
again.
can understand Leon
That's the
losing her, but
story.
like him finding her again is always like, what the fuck, dude? It's like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
And-
it's always, you know, this is where I think the mid 2000s video game design comes in, right? Where like you run into it so often, where like there's Ashley, but she's behind this puzzle where you need to collect the 3 things to open the door,
Yep.
or
Yeah.
you know, you're like there's Ashley, but oh no, the floor collapsed, so now you need to take the long way. You know what I mean? It's very gamey in that aspect.
Yeah.
there
Very
was
tropey.
so much of that dialogue with Krauser. I was like, oh, he must be an important person. There seems to be all of this dialogue.
history.
This must be something that I missed out from not playing 2 or 3. And I like went to like look up Krauser on the
he's
Resident
not?
Evil wiki. No, his
I
his
was
first and only
convinced-
appearance in the games is in this game.
Oh my god!
No, it's even better. His first appearance was in Resident Evil 4, and he had this weird hints to a backstory that was
Yeah.
never defined because the game came out in 2005, right? And then in
Yeah.
2009, they released this animated movie that shows the actual story of how Leon and Krauser know each other. And now in the remake, they reference the movie that came out after the original to define
That's
what
incredible.
Krauser is.
For sure that he was from like Resident Evil 2 at some point. Or
No.
something.
Yeah,
For
Nope.
sure.
No,
yeah,
'cause
I
it-
completely assumed that, like, yeah, he was in one of the last
Because
couple.
I was like, this is probably
That's
means a lot
incredible.
more to people that played 2 fighting this dude. That was
No,
what I was
that's-
thinking.
That's like I had been sitting
That's
there thinking,
fantastic.
God, this story is such dog shit. Like no one gets
How dare
fleshed
you.
out. And then Krauser comes up and it's like, okay, this seems like the most fleshed out character. And it seems that he's the most fleshed out character because he has all of this other backstory with Leon. Where did he appear? Was he in 2? I don't remember hearing about this character. And I was just like, oh no, he's potentially the worst fleshed out as all because they insinuate to a fleshed out backstory, but it never existed.
well, it does exist now.
Does.
Just
now it
give it
exists. Yeah.
Glenn. Yeah.
It's like some
Um,
Final Fantasy 15 shit. You gotta see
yeah,
the
this-
movie.
You had to see you had to see Resident Evil Kingsglaive to understand
Oh my
Krauser's
God.
deep story.
So, and is it
Uh,
Krauser? Is he the reason Ashley's there? He kidnapped her, right?
He's the one who
Yeah.
kidnaps her.
Okay, because
originally.
forever I'm like, why the fuck am I here? Why is Ashley with these fucking people? Like,
Mhm.
why is the president only sending one dude after his daughter? Like, he doesn't seem to
Yeah.
give a fuck about his daughter. Like,
Yeah,
it's so weird.
there are a few weird rewrites to it. Like, you know that section toward the end where you played this morning, Stretch, where the helicopter
I think I played the majority of the game this morning.
the helicopter comes in, right, and like destroys
good
like,
old
the
Mike.
whole- right, yeah, good old Mike. So in the original, if I remember right, Leon actually calls Mike in. So there's that kind of
Ooh.
feeling of like, okay, he's got a team, and now it's like now to bring in the big guns, he calls in, you know, the artillery, right, to come in and help. But in this remake, it's like no, Hunnigan's help, like, you know, courtesy of Hunnigan, like helping you out, Leon, but still expected for you to be a solo solid Snake mission to save Ashley. You know, it's weird.
Yeah, there was some. I was looking up something. Like even I saw the end. They kind of changed with Ada. Like I guess in the original, she like puts a gun to Leon's head to get that sample, and this one she just like gets it, and he's like, "Hey, like what the fuck you doing with that?" or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Well,
just different
shucks.
vibe. Ada Wong was kind of weird throughout the whole deal.
Yeah, Ada had some weird changes in this because I think in the original too, there's a scene where like it's around the time, it's like the 5th or 6th time Leon loses Ashley. It's the one where they're in front of the big Amber and Salazar physically is there and like freeze frames them both and then takes Ashley away. After that, Ada runs into Leon and Leon's still like parasite mode, and he like tries to choke her out and kill her until she stabs him in the leg with a knife to wake him up. But you don't see that. I feel like they made Ada a lot more like aloof and
she was like, I'm a super spy lady that's also here. This is a weirdly populated place with people like Luis and her, and also how fucking convenient that Luis's fucking lab is right down the hall from
Tori's neighbors to the main culture.
There's a church in a cave, and right next to the church is a lab.
Of course. So I remember you get his key from him like when he dies, and I'm like, when the fuck am I gonna use this?
I figure we were gonna like go to a city or like a research center. No, we're just gonna keep fucking
just
going
off of a cave.
Yeah, it's like state of the art shit too. It looks so high tech.
It's like right next to the fucking cave. You know, you walk 10 steps and then there's like a laboratory fucking here are your emergency fire exits diagram.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And
that's
I
what's
think
so beautiful
pretty
about
cheesy
this, though.
too.
Like, it's the writing is great though. That's why it's great because it absolutely is aware of what it's doing. Like it knows how fucking dumb. Think of all the dumb shit you do. There's a lake monster. You have a boat at some point. You fucking play Donkey Kong on some mine carts at one point.
Fucking mine carts, man.
The game ends in like the best way ever with you on the jet ski. It's so fucking dumb. And like
in the game
so
is so
many
many
things.
like so many dumb B-movie callbacks that are like funnier than they are clever. Like right on the minecart segment, Luis is like, "Hope you like thrill rides," right? And then at the end, right when Leon's like jet skiing out, he's like, "Hey Ashley, hope you like thrill rides," and it's like, okay, so fucking stupid.
Yeah, him talking with Ashley is like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think between like the tone that the game was setting between spooky tense horror and 80s action flick, like having those moments of like going through the mines, and now we're playing Donkey Kong Country and we're, you know, having to shoot people, and then going back to being spooky scare, and then like the jokes and this and that, and going from like the horrible tense village and the surrounding structures to the eerie church. And then it's like, okay, now you're in a military compound and all of your zombies are now fucking hoorah ass fucking zombies.
Yeah, I remember the first time you see that military compound, I straight up got like Metal Gear Ground Zeroes vibes. You know, like if you look at it with the binoculars and then the screen cuts to Leon and he brings it down, it's like, kept you waiting, huh? Like just fucking, I don't know. It was so weird. But like also that's just what the original was. I think from a story perspective, it's like Sadler was building up the army on the island and then went to Spain, to rural Spain, to like colonize the castle and the village with his plagas, his parasites, so he could become a god.
Yeah.
I guess geographically, how far away is the island and the...
Don't think about it that hard.
Yeah, you know, about 3 or 4.
You know,
About 3 or 4. Yeah,
it's like
I
it's far enough away that you
on,
can
like,
ride a
the
jet
other...
ski to safety.
How long can one tank of gas on a jet ski get you? How far can you go? It's that far away.
Stretch, you live in Florida, you know, right?
Yeah, you got to know how far that'll go.
I know, like there was so much that was super interesting. Like I'm definitely someone that like I need a story to latch into. And there just wasn't a story here. There was like little like flecks of a story dotted here and there, but I just feel like they could have done so much more to build up who people were. Like maybe having like one remaining person in the village who you chat to, and he talks about how everything was okay at first and then it got worse, and maybe you watch him, like at the start of the game when you meet this person, they're like okay, but they're trying to stay safe, but then when you meet them again at chapter 4, they're like turning and they can do like an itchy scratchy kind of moment, and like have like witness that, like, oh shit, this thing that's happened to me, this person has had it for way longer, they're fucked, I'm gonna be fucked. That you like, you just don't know who the big players are until you've killed them.
Well, Stretch, I think, see, this game, this remake, and back then, they're taking a page out of this legendary game called Dark Souls. They're taking a page out of that book, where all of that information you're looking for is written in text, where you have to approach a piece of paper and press X to see it.
Yeah,
you definitely get a lot more from those.
My favorite story moment of the game was the miner's journal, where he's like, "This fucking sucks. I hate this. It's my girl's 5th birthday," and then it like gets worse, gets real bad, and then the final entry is like, "Boy, I'm happy digging. God, it's so great that I can do all this for Lord Sadler. I wouldn't rather be anywhere but here." Like, that's the most story I got about the history of the location throughout the entire 15 hours that I played.
Yeah.
I don't need any of that. I just need Leon to go in there, kick
Beat
some
himbo.
ass, and then say something stupid. That's
Yeah,
I wrote down some of my favorites. I'm going to show you I'm going to share my favorite that I'm sure we'll all remember this moment. There's a couple good ones, like Nighty Night Nights.
Nighty Night Nights is classic.
It's a good one. Good one.
Yep.
But the best one is Time for the Teacher to Be Taught. I was like, that one more than any, like, got me.
What was the context of that one? Was that against
Krauser?
Krauser?
It was Krauser.
Krauser.
Yeah, when you're in like
Time for the
the
teacher to be
circular
taught.
fighting arena towards the
He's
end.
trying to say it as like a bad.
Yeah. Well, because as we all know, because we've all
it's
seen the
so good.
2009 movie, Krauser taught Leon all the knife skills.
Yes.
So
Yes, it was.
yeah.
I got that. He was pretty heavy-handed with the rookie, and teaching him stuff. And like, he's proud of him at the end. It's like, you're no longer a rookie or whatever he said. I don't freaking remember what he says, but that's what he's trying to say.
He's like, I taught you well.
Yeah.
And then, like, after pulling the knife back out,
tear comes
Leon's
out of
like,
his-
yeah, you did.
Yeah, basically.
And then Leon steals his knife.
Or
and-
it even ends like when he
Good
kills
fucking knife.
Sadler. He's like, I'll give you a holy body. For a second, I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, because you're stabbing him. Fuck off, Leon. Like, yeah, because at first I wasn't quite getting it. And I was like, holy body, what's that? Oh,
Yeah.
you idiot.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like the original had cheesy one. Even actually, Resident Evil to this day has cheesy one. Like even Ethan Winters and fucking Resident Evil 7 and 8 like has some pretty god awful. Like, I think it's just an inherent part of the DNA.
This is making me want to play 8 after you wrote a feature about Ethan Winters and how he's like the stupidest motherfucker alive.
Absolutely stupid.
And it makes me very interested now to play that.
Yeah. He's a fucking idiot.
This is exactly like people need to apologize to 6. 6 is not that bad compared to all of the shit that is getting championed for 4.
I don't know enough about 6 to say.
Yeah, I haven't played 6. I can't confirm it. From my understanding, a lot of people weren't fans of the gameplay of 6.
I remember that being the big thing.
The gameplay is Resident Evil.
Oh, you're pissing a lot of people off right now.
I feel like I would need to.
We're gonna get DDoSed on Monday.
Yeah, no, Leon is king of just dumb ass one-liners, but he can back it up with like, because he can roundhouse kick the shit out of you, you know. So it's like
he'd fucking murder me. But
yeah, he's earned the right to say all the dumb shit he does.
Like, even like talking with Ash, she's like, oh boy, like she towards the end where she got him up there and did the cure thing and then found the map. He's like, boy, why did I even come here? You can handle yourself. It's like, Leon, shut the fuck up. Like, you absolutely need to be there. Like you're like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I did that. And it's like, you mean you pushed a fucking button? Like, what the fuck? It's such a weird. I don't know.
Yeah. Can we actually dive into Ashley? Because Ashley is one of the more polarizing things from Resident Evil 4, even in the original and now, just because theoretically the game is kind of one big escort quest, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
with
the one
that-
thing I'll say is that I'm disappointed there wasn't a Leon catch line.
Mhm. There is a lot of Leon though, just like Leon.
The only person that ever threw anything to me was Luis.
I thought it was funny, the part with the wrecking ball crane,
Yeah.
where you jump down and then she's like, Leon, Leon, and you go over to catch her. If you just fucking ignore her, she jumps down.
Yeah.
And
She
I
does.
thought that was hilarious.
Mhm. Yeah. But what did you guys think of her? I guess from a mechanics perspective, like as the person you have to chauffeur to the end, but then also as just a character.
Cringe.
I made me
Cringe.
start thinking of how she was like as in 2005. Like this idea of like doing a mechanic like this, pretty novel. Then I mean we've seen it a bunch since then. So I was thinking about it in that context a lot of the time. But for the most part, it was largely like as a mechanic for having her with you. I didn't even like it didn't come up very often.
Really, the only
Hardly at
time
all.
that mechanic came into play was when you needed her to like open a door or
Yeah.
hold a wheel, and that's
But like
about
during
it.
combat, wasn't much thing. Like every once in a while, maybe she gets grabbed. It's like just shoot that fucker in the leg and
Yeah.
you're good. Like
It did kind of annoy me that her like stay back didn't actually stay back, or she wouldn't avoid anything. She would just like physically take 3 steps backwards, which is like it got to the point where I didn't even bother attempting to shift her position, because if she was going to get grabbed, she might as well get grabbed right next to me so that I could like stab a motherfucker.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. Like I didn't use the far away one too much. It is a nice difference from the original. Well, kind of. It's a give and take, because in the original there wasn't a like close or far. It was either follow me or stay here. And if you hit stay here, she would just stand in one place.
I think a stay here would have been more useful.
It can be, but then also, if I remember right in the original, then as like a zombie would spawn or a granado would spawn nearby her and then grab her. So it's like kind of one of those like, oh, I got to run back to her kind of thing. So you don't want to leave her too far away. But also in the original, she had her own health bar.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
knew
so-
that, and I was thank God.
and you would have to use yellow herbs because that increases your max health. You can also do it for her and increase her max health. So then it became like that choice. I'm kind of happy with the way they do it here, where there's like the down state and then death. I think that's just kind of a simpler and quicker way to manage her. Yeah.
Except for in the castle wall part where she just kept getting yeeted for me. With the
castle wall?
like cannons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just like standing there getting hit, and then it would shoot again and it'd be like dead. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah. It took me a bit on my first playthrough to realize like, oh, you can actually shoot a red barrel from a specific angle to destroy each of the catapults. That makes it a lot easier.
Oh, fuck.
I was doing that too.
I didn't even notice that. I just waited until I got the cannon and then blew them up.
Nah, you could destroy all of them except for one just by shooting red barrels.
Yep. Makes it way easier. What about that segment where you play as Ashley? That one was pretty infamous in the first game, or in the original game, because there was also like this annoying slide puzzle you had to do for it too. But how did you guys feel about it here?
I thought it was kind of interesting. Like, it was definitely different than the rest of gameplay in terms of you were like actively having to pay attention to what you were doing, what was around you. And then also it with the lantern was like kind of influenced that whole flashbangs will destroy Las Plagas and kind of that utilize that weakness in an interesting way.
I think it was the most horror-y part of the game.
That too.
Because, I mean, she's got no tools other than point lantern at guy kind of a thing.
Couldn't even break a vase, for God's sake.
No, I need those resources for Leon later.
Yeah,
You
not
go
her.
through that with Leon later, man.
I do love that you can't break them for resources, but you can gather treasure as Ashley in that segment. And when she gets
And then they
kidnapped,
just get
all the treasure
dropped.
conveniently drops.
But no, I thought it was all right segment. I don't think it was a standout necessarily. I was like, I kind of figured it would happen at some point. We would be Ashley at some point.
Yeah.
But it was all right.
What about you, Stretch?
I could take it or leave it. you know, it kind of felt to me like a lot of the other like MacGuffin-y aspects of the game that is just like there was nothing inherently overly difficult. You just needed to like make sure to be kiting and like baiting people around and stuff. Um, and it just kind of felt like it was making things take longer
Mm.
for a little ad in my mind.
Yeah.
But you know, it was fine. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
The lantern puzzle I solved like immediately. I don't know if there was meant to be like something chasing you down while that was happening, but
No, I think
no.
they stopped
Okay.
chasing you around then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like they all kind of freeze at that doorway when you're like
Yeah,
climbing
that
under.
part was pretty cool when she crawls under them and they're all frozen. That looked pretty
Yeah.
rad.
That yeah.
Mhm.
It was tense. It continued to do a good thing of being really tense.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's kind of interesting playing it now in like a post Resident Evil 7 and 8 world, because both 7 and 8, particularly 8, had, you know, they're more grounded in horror than action, but there's always one segment that really ramps up the horror. Especially in 8, like the second house you go to, like everyone points to that as like that's definitely the scariest part of the game.
that was the marionette one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, just like kind of seeing, you know, the trajectory of Resident Evil post 4, right? Where like going back to their horror roots worked really well for them. And 7 and 8 were probably like the biggest successes since 4, right? And then seeing them have to like now remake it, where remake 4, where the Ashley segment's arguably the most horror-y part of the game, you know, the one that feels the most tense, the most like you can't fight back. It's just interesting seeing them kind of go into that, you know, with like any lessons they might have learned from 7 and 8. I'm not sure if it hits the same highs or the horror highs as like 8 does, you know, it's not as scary as that, but it has some tension to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the night enemies are cool. Just the weird fucking whatever inhabiting a suit of armor.
Just swinging its sword at you.
Yeah.
Now,
how did they get in there?
Huh?
That's the question. How did the like? Because in
It's
the
like
castle, those would have just been empty suits of armor.
It's like a fungus. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it's Last of Us. Don't think about it. Don't think about it.
You're not supposed to think about it.
Oh, right, the writing. Sorry.
The way that you would like walk into an area, kill the enemies, do a thing, and then turn around and like there would be a whole new like wave of enemies. It's like there's no motherfucking way that any of you guys got in here. A lot of that was also very video gamey.
Yeah.
Which is like again not a bad thing because it's a video game.
It is a very, very, very leans heavily into the video gamey ass video game stuff.
Yeah.
Which is great.
For sure. So Rut, earlier you called Ashley cringy or cringe. Yeah. So what about her as a character? I mean, because like, you know,
Leon's pretty cringe.
Leon is very cringe. Yeah. I think everyone in this game got
cringe.
A bit of a like,
hey, Luis is cool, man.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there
wears
is
a leather jacket.
There is one interaction in the original.
Stereotype.
Yeah, between Luis and Ashley, when Luis first meets Ashley in the remake, you know, he's like, "Oh, you found your missing señorita, right?"
Yeah.
In the original, he says this line is so like I can see why they got rid of it now, but it said, "Oh, I see the president equipped his daughter with ballistics." he's wearing a tight sweater, and it's like,
hilarious.
okay, this is so
That's how old is Ashley meant to be?
I think like 18, 19. Because like if you pick up her phone in the church when you first grab her, she has like a sorority sticker on her phone.
Okay, yeah, she's meant to be.
Yeah,
20.
that's right.
Yeah, 20.
So,
but yeah, that's the level of writing they've kind of, because like in the original too, at the end on the jet ski, you know, in this remake, she offers him like, I can get you a job with my, you know, president's
on my detail, yeah.
My detail, yeah. In the original, she says, "How about we go back to my place and do some overtime?" And Leon's like, "No, I'm good."
So no, I'm twice your age.
Yeah. Yeah, but so as a character, you found her pretty cringe, right?
Yeah, just very empty. I think more than anything, like there just wasn't a lot there. It was just that typical like I'm following you to get out of here, and that was kind of the extent of it. Like there was obviously a little bit of like goofy dialogue along the way between them, but like I don't know, it felt like there was really nothing there, but they wanted there to be something there, and then that was it. Like
Yeah, weirdly, we don't get. She doesn't say much. Doesn't do much other than be captured and be saved.
and
Like, I
Leon.
can't say anything about a character. Like, she just exists. I guess she's a part of it. I don't have an opinion on a character that doesn't really have anything to it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was the cringe aspect for me. It was just a very shallow character that just I was bored every time she started talking.
So maybe this is where I play the original comes in. She is, believe it or not, more fleshed out than she was in the original. I'm not saying she is great.
This is a
Even now.
remake. Got it.
She's definitely more fleshed out than she was in 2005, I think. Because there's more agency in her, right? Or at least this attempt at agency where she kind of feels like she's doing more of her own stuff. I think it just kind of falls flat in the gameplay because, you know, like in the latter half, especially in the island, when she starts getting all like, I'm getting good at this, or like, man, this is my specialty. And I'm like, bro, you opened a door. Like you took a lock and you slid it to the right and opened the door, you know? And it's like, I get they're trying to make her come off as like someone who has more, you know, like who's more assertive, or like someone who's trying to do something to help you, but it just doesn't.
They're trying to pull character development out of thin air.
Yeah, kind of.
And I think, you know, we've probably also been quite spoiled recently. You know, there were so many places in there that there could have been additional dialogue to not only flesh out Ashley but also to flesh out Leon. I think, you know,
I don't need to know anything more about Leon than I know.
Me neither. No, I don't care about anything else.
I know all I need to know.
If we want it to be a better game, then
no, it's perfect.
Leon's
makes
pretty
the game perfect. Yeah.
Leon's a 10.
We don't need to flesh out Leon. He can be silent, whatever. But having, you know, played games recently like God of War and Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, the fact that we had no clue what age Ashley was, and you said that like there was somewhere that there might have been like a sorority patch. It's like, if you know, if when you first met her she was freaking out, if Leon just tells her like focus on something, you know, tell me about your life, like there could be so many moments for that back and forth to flesh out what's going on, or even to hear more from her. Like, how many times did she get stolen, and how many times did we hear nothing about what someone said while she was stolen, what someone did, where she was taken? You know, that could have been used to flesh out Ramon and like anyone else. Literally, please flesh out any of these characters.
You're wanting to play a different game, buddy.
Yeah,
that's a different game.
Because I think it's two things here. I think one, it's based on a game, like probably one of the first companion-based games, right?
That's what I was thinking of in the context of that. Like, if you're like, it's 2005. I can't think of. I think a big time people took notice was BioShock Infinite, probably the first time someone really talked about it. That's what I was thinking in the same vein. Like, it's very much an early idea of it. It's novel for the time.
Right. And then I think there's this other layer of this is Resident Evil. This is not God of War.
Yeah.
you know,
well, the God of War now did not used to be the God of War of 2003.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like, it can be changed. You can make a remake.
I don't think it would be better with more, right? I don't need to know more about these characters. I don't. I'm with you. I'm largely someone that plays a game for story, and I need a story thing to go on. But like, give me some dumb fucking enemy that makes no sense, and for Leon to be like, fuck you, guy, and then make some bad pun based on whatever bullshit they were saying and move on. That's all I need.
Yeah, because I think the priority of this game is to be a B-movie action flick. Because like I'm thinking of there are times where Luis is your
writing.
That's not true. B-movie Luis is your companion for a while there, right? And like that could be a good moment for expanding story. And I do that in the cutscenes where he reveals more like, oh, he
We
was an
get
umbrella
so I
player.
think that's probably the most story we get is with Luis for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
but in the gameplay moments when he's your companion, all of the back and forth, because they do have a lot of back and forth, is
Yeah.
cheesy one-liner action hero shit, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's the primary goal of it. You know, like the minecart section is you like thrill rides. When you're in that house and you're being attacked from all sides, it's just, you know, like, hey, I'm serving them up for you, or like, hey, it's your
Yeah.
turn, or you know what to do, right? It's like very action movie stuff, right?
Yeah.
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 That's a-okay with me for this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just fine with it.
Yeah, because in the original, I remember there was so you know, there's the whenever Hunnigan calls you, or Condor, Roost, whatever.
Roost.
Yeah.
Roost calling Condor 1, right? Like, and the little codec thing pops up. So in 2005, what they had was, it was like a full-on codec screen, like Metal Gear Solid ass codec screen, right? And then Salazar would hack into it. So there are times where you're talking to Salazar in there, and then Sadler hacks into it. So like those are also venues where you could actually speak to the character, the bad guys more. So ironically, maybe in a way, like Stretch, you might find more fleshed outness in the gameplay in the original for the bad guys mainly than here.
They realized they didn't need it in this remake. Don't need it.
I just, like, especially the first time that you even get to Ashley is in chapter 4, the first daughter. So that's like, you got to get through a quarter of the game to start to get even the slightest hint of a story.
I'm there to save the president's daughter, man. I'm a one-man army.
Yeah.
Just
What more do you need to know?
So much range to bounce.
Beyond S-rank Kennedy.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I think I've been waiting to save this reveal for the end of this, and I feel like we're kind of getting toward that here. So, you know, we've established that a lot of the storytelling in this game is more environmental, like it's more relegated to picking up the things, reading the signs, whatever. So in the island, you find out that Sadler is like a longtime family name that has been around for centuries, right? Like you see the tombstones of like Sadler's fathers, assuming, because whatever, right? And then you find the first one who found the plagas, like found the parasite in like the 1500s. And his name is Adam Sadler, which I find deeply hilarious. And I can't tell if it's a joke or not, because I feel like it's a pun on Adam and Eve, because there's a lot of religious context to it. But also, I'm pretty sure they know it sounds like Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why there's the thing that you look at that says I Adam. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense now.
Does it?
No.
But that's the level of deep writing. Like, even the deep writing is like,
love it.
that's where we're at for it. So
That's fantastic.
Wasn't there the other family? There was the family that was meant to be also trying to stop the Las Plagas getting out.
there was the Salazar family. They were trying to stop the Las Plagas from getting out until the Sadler family infected one of them with the Plagas, and then suddenly they were okay with it.
Okay, so Ramon is a Salazar?
Ramon is a
Yes.
Salazar. He's
Okay.
the small dude who dressed
Yeah,
up as
the Queen.
Napoleon.
Thatcher.
He was a Napoleon wannabe in the original, which is
Yeah.
funny.
And that's Margaret Thatcher.
Okay, yeah. Because like
Yeah.
even like the credit sequence with like the photos that seems like they need to be set to like an 80s TV show theme. Like that was all really cool story. That was all really cool lore building. Where the fuck was it in the game?
In the text, in the sacred texts.
It was there if you looked around, man.
But did you
We'll
want to look
say.
around? That's the real question, you know.
I did a lot of looking around.
I was really hoping at the end too, like after, or like, I guess kind of where the segment was where they were panning through all the photos and stuff, that we'd get like, because like a very action movie thing where we get some stills with some words of like, well, Leon returned home to blah blah blah, and then I was really really hoping. I was like, come on, give me this, give me
But they
this
didn't.
nonsense, and it didn't do it. I was so bummed.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens at the end too, which I think they didn't show it in the original, but how, like, you know, Ada leaves with the parasite and she's on the helicopter and she's talking to someone, and they reveal that it's Wesker. And I don't remember if that was in the original or not.
I did look up the ending to get like an ending explained kind of thing.
No idea
because
who
I was
Wesker
like,
is.
there are so many like loose plot threads. What the fuck is going on? So that cutscene was originally in Operation Ada in the original release. And then, we also know that the Separate Ways DLC is apparently going to be happening due to like people looking at the game code.
Right. And Leon just straight up says, I guess this is where we go our separate ways.
And then he turns to the camera and winks as an explosion and a flying eagle soars by.
Yeah.
So good. Well, we have to get the jet ski scene.
We do. Yeah.
Because why would you take a free ride on a helicopter to get off this fucking hellhole? Nah.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking escape sequence, my god.
Yeah, I love that
it's like Halo 2 at the end there too.
Yeah,
like,
it's triggered by just killing the big bad. All of a sudden, self-destruct sequence starts. Like, okay, yeah, sure,
best.
I guess.
I love it.
So fucking weird.
It's the best.
So you don't know who Wesker is. Wesker is a long time. I would probably say Resident Evil fan favorite. I can't explain to you why.
I'd say he's the major antagonist
until 5
of the franchise.
Yeah. Well, in
Why
5 he dies. Well, he falls in a volcano. So we don't know if he's dead because this is Resident Evil.
True.
But
he could come back as a lava monster guy.
Yeah, he could. But he hasn't been in 7 and 8 as far as I know.
They're saving it.
He died in the movies and came back, so
it's true. Yeah, because Wesker was the big bad in 5. He's the final villain. Like he's the Saddler of that one. Which I don't know if they're going to remake 5, considering all the race stuff in it.
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, yeah. So it's set in some Western African country. I forget if they named it or not. But instead of it being a parasite, it's like a flower that infects people. But when it infects them, it makes them like quote unquote savages. So it's
oh my god,
Chris Redfield, a white American dude, and Shiva
mowing down African dudes,
just mowing down. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, and it's more actiony than 4, so it's even more like just kill them all.
The big dumb himbo main character of 5, as there's a boulder rolling towards him, he punches it, and it breaks.
Okay. That seems pretty rad.
There's a QTE where you mash, like, I think it was a whatever button, and you're like Gatling punching the boulder and shredding it with your fist.
Think of how much cooler Indiana Jones would have been if he just fucking turned around and whacked that thing.
Yeah. When Harrison Ford was younger, he could probably do it.
I hear that'll be in the new movie.
Yeah. They're saving it for
for his final chapter.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wesker's been a bad guy since the very first Resident Evil game. He kind of was the guy who triggered the events in Raccoon City.
Right.
So it was cool to see him at the end, and I think that he's also going to come as a playable character to Mercenaries down the road.
Him and Ada, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
This has made me, I don't know if I will jump that as much into them, but it's made me interested in Resident Evil.
Go play games. 6 if you want the dumb gameplay. Go
that.
play 6. No, go play it. No, apparently you loved 4, so go play 6.
See, I can't tell this is a bad take. I feel like I need to experience 6 for myself to know just how bad of a take this is.
Yeah, that's partly why I want to now. Also, to be just so I could call and be like, "Stretch, you dumb motherfucker," so we can continue our disagreements on everything.
Yeah,
deepen it.
Because I mean, I think you can. I mean, clearly, I know you're really invested in the story, so I'm not going to tell you which ones to play for that. But I mean, from a gameplay perspective, like 7 and 8 are pretty great. The second remake is also very good.
That's what I was thinking. The second remake or 8 at some point.
Yeah, but I'm glad at least one of you really enjoyed Resident Evil 4.
I think I will say. I think that I got out of it a lot of the same things that Otten got out of it. It seemed to have really landed for Otten, and it seemed to have really not landed for me.
You still like video games, man.
That's not
Yeah.
true at all.
You're one of them.
Entitled game
A
journalist.
fake gamer.
High and mighty. Yeah, you don't really like games. You like movies, but you play games.
So you
You're one
like
of those
Hideo Kojima
dudes.
games. You're a really big fan of those.
Yeah,
That's what he's
you're a
saying.
Kojima
I can't-
guy. You
I've-
only
I've
like
played-
The Last of Us.
I've played
And-
Metal Gear Solid 2, 3. I got a third of the way through 5. And I cannot stand his writing, the way that he makes up 2 stories.
To be fair, there's very little of his writing in the 5th one because Konami kind of gutted that one anyway.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. When I say that I played through the first third of 5, I also mean the first third of what's available, not including the extra third that they cut at the end.
Right. Right. But that's Resident Evil 4. I think we gave it a 9.5 in our TechRaptor.net review that you can read.
I believe
it was a
so.
9.
9. Yeah, it was a higher. It was higher than what you would
Yeah.
give it, Stretch, for sure.
Oh, yeah, it is a 9.5. Yeah, Sam's wrong.
Oh, okay.
It is my default stance to assume Sam is wrong, but in this case, he's correct.
Mm. I mean, yeah, Resident Evil 4 was kind of like a gateway, I think, for a lot of people back then too. Like it probably was one of their first experiences with a horror video game, even though it's not quite horror, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so seeing
it's
it here,
dipping
yeah, it's
toes
nice.
in the pond.
Yeah. And I think as far as like a remake of a iconic video game goes,
Good job.
I think it's a pretty good job. I mean, Capcom
Yeah.
has a track record, right, of like remaking 2,
Yeah.
kind of 3, and then here 4, like
Yeah,
you
they've
know.
been crushing it with these remakes.
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll see if they tackle 5. I'd be curious to see if they do, how they do.
Don't
You know.
acknowledge it exists.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like Code Veronica or one of the other very well liked spin-off titles get a remake before they, go to touch on 5. Because 5 was also like the PS3, Xbox 360 generation. So like it's not that far back.
Yeah, from a gameplay perspective, it's not like decrepit or old or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised too if we see a Resident Evil 9 before we see a Resident Evil 5 remake or anything.
Yeah, that's Resident Evil 4 originally had tank controls. Not even tank controls. It had like when you aimed, you could not move.
Yeah. It was originally a GameCube exclusive, so they were like, well, we can't use the C stick to aim, so like just hold down the left trigger and then your left stick becomes your aiming button or your aiming stick.
Yeah.
Boy, that sounds like hot garbage.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of it was tooled in a way where like the zombies moved slower than they do in this remake because it kind of had to factor in that you also move overall slower, like this game would, like the remake, the way they tooled it now, it would definitely suck if you couldn't move while aiming, but they factored everything around that, so yeah. But this kind of feels like the definitive way to play 4, but I also wouldn't say it's like so definitive that the original 4 you can like throw it out the window. And I haven't played the VR, the Oculus Quest VR one, which I know a lot of people say like that's really, really good. I haven't been able to confirm for myself.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try that next. I do have an Oculus.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, you can experience the original and all of its cheesy glory.
No, sorry, it's actually it's a fuck. What Oculus do you have? I'm fudging this joke.
Yeah,
you got the Oculus, but it's actually an Index 2 exclusive.
That's it. That's the joke. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I have an Index and an Oculus.
Yeah, but this is coming for the Index 2 only.
So long since I've made fun of your Index that I forgot what it was called.
Jealous.
Didn't they confirm they're making PSVR 2 stuff for Resident Evil 4?
I think there's something for Village for.
There is something for Village.
Village, I think, is out already.
Yeah, that's PSVR 2. But I think I remember
Resident Evil 4 remake will be coming to PSVR 2.
That's not a shocker.
I wonder if I wonder if that's gonna be like the Oculus one or not.
It's coming as free DLC. No, this is for the remake.
Yeah, I mean, like if it's inspired by the Oculus one or not, you know what I mean, or like if it's gonna be another game mode or something.
Damn, I played this on the computer, not my PS5.
Oof. Well,
bummer.
I played a little bit of Village in VR too. I wasn't that big of a fan personally, but yeah. But it's Resident Evil 4. It's a good game. If you're listening at this point and haven't picked it up, you know, if you're interested, it's out. It's there.
It is worth your time.
Yeah, you've got half of the pod really liking it and the other half of the pod being okay with it. So, you know, overall, that's not a bad, you know, it's like at least an
average.
80 on
Like
Rotten Tomatoes.
75%. Yeah.
Yeah. So
how fucking low are you guys? 75%.
I'm just like averaging. Well, I guess averaging, yeah.
Yeah, averaging would put it at about 8 or 8.5 for us here.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rut's not too good with numbers, unfortunately.
That's what spreadsheets are for. They do it all for me.
We used to put all of our vague numeric scores in a spreadsheet and it'll figure it out for us.
Yeah, and then ChatGPT does it for me. So
exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the TechRaptor podcast. And if you did, please leave us a thumbs up on YouTube, hit the subscribe button if you haven't on your podcast app of choice or on YouTube. And let us know in the comments down below, did you play through Resident Evil 4, either the original or the remake? What did you think? Were there any little changes that you really liked or hated between the original?
If you were to kill Rutledge, what pun would you say? What bad pun would you say afterwards?
Yeah, or just what was your favorite Leon himboism? What was it? Nighty Night Nights? That's
time for the teacher to be taught.
That's easily the best one.
Yeah, let us know in the comments down below. And if you want more news, features, reviews, etc., we're always posting those on techraptor.net. But if you want more of this show, we will be back next Monday, and we will see you then.